There's a story about a small town in Texas, the kind of town you'd usually just drive through without stopping. Nothing much to see, nothing much to do. But on the edge of this town, by the old highway, there used to be a cheap rundown motel called the Sunset Inn. From the outside, it looked like every other roadside place. A faded neon sign that flickered when the wind hit it, peeling paint on the doors, and an empty parking lot that never seemed to have more than 2 or 3 cars at a time. Most people who stayed there were just travelers passing through, truckers, salesmen, people who didn't want to spend too much on a bed for the night. But what no one could ever explain was why so many guests who checked into room number 6 never checked out. The first missing person didn't cause much of a stir. A salesman in his 40s, last seen pulling into the motel late at night. His car was found still parked outside a week later. Keys on the dashboard, but the man himself was gone. Police assumed he got drunk, wandered off, maybe fell somewhere in the desert, but the body was never found. A few months later, it happened again. A young couple on a road trip disappeared after staying in room 6. Their suitcases were still inside, their toothbrushes in the bathroom. But the bed was perfectly made, like no one had ever touched it. That detail stuck with people. The bed always looked untouched. By the time the 4th disappearance happened, the locals started whispering. Nobody wanted to stay in room 6 anymore. Truckers avoided the place, and travelers who didn't know better were warned away by the clerk at the front desk. But every now and then, someone desperate for a bed would take it. And every time, the result was the same. The strangest part wasn't just the vanishings. It was the reports from the few people who stayed in the room and survived. One man, a construction worker, stayed the night and left before dawn. He told police he'd heard soft knocking sounds from inside the walls, like someone trapped was trying to get out. Another guest swore they woke up in the middle of the night and saw a figure standing at the end of the bed. But when they turned on the light, the room was empty. People said that if you stood outside the door at midnight, you could hear faint whispers calling your name, even if no one inside knew who you were. Eventually, the police got involved. They opened investigations, sent officers to check the room, search the grounds, but they never found a trace of the missing people. No blood, no fingerprints, no signs of struggle, nothing, just silence. One detective admitted later, off the record, that when he stood in that room, he felt a pressure in his chest, like the air itself didn't want him there. Another officer refused to go back, claiming that while standing near the bathroom mirror, he saw a reflection of someone else standing behind him, though he was alone. The motel eventually shut down after losing too many guests. But the building is still there. Locals avoid it, calling it cursed. Teenagers sometimes dare each other to sneak inside, but almost nobody has the guts to enter room 6. The door is padlocked now, but people say that on windy nights, it rattles like someone inside is trying to get out. One of the scariest accounts came from a photographer who trespassed into the motel years after it was abandoned. He wanted to take haunted location photos for his portfolio. He took dozens of shots in the hallway, the lobby, the parking lot. But when he developed the pictures of room 6, he found something terrifying. In one photo, the empty bed had a clear outline on the sheets, as if someone was lying there. In another, the mirror above the dresser showed not his reflection, but a blurred figure sitting on the bed, staring straight at the camera. The photographer left town the next day and refused to talk about it again. There are also stories from people who live nearby. One woman who lived across the street claimed she often saw the room light flicker on at night, even though there was no electricity connected to the building anymore. A man who jogged past the property said he once saw a figure pull the curtain aside and stare out at him, but when he looked again, the curtain was still closed and the room pitch black. What makes the story even creepier is that nobody knows who or what is inside. Some believe the motel owner was secretly involved in the disappearances, that maybe room 6 had a hidden passage or trapdoor where guests were dragged away. Others think it's something far darker, something not human. There are theories that the land itself is cursed, built on some kind of burial ground. Others say the first guest who disappeared was actually murdered, and his spirit remained trapped in the room, pulling others in with him. But the detail that always gets people talking is this. Every time the police unlocked room, 6 after someone vanished. The bed was freshly made, the sheets tucked in tight, the pillows fluffed, almost like the room itself was cleaning up after what it had taken. If you ever visit that small town and ask locals about the Sunset Inn, most will tell you not to go near it. They'll shake their heads and change the subject. But if you press them, some might admit they've heard things themselves. Whispers on the wind, shadows moving behind locked windows, faint knocks echoing from inside, even though the place is empty. And if you're really unlucky, they'll warn you about the last person who dared to spend the night there. A thrill seeker. Some YouTuber who thought it would be funny to film a ghost hunt inside the motel. He went live, laughing, joking around, showing off the dusty furniture and graffiti. Viewers watched as he opened the door to room 6, sat on the bed and started asking questions. "Is anyone here with me?" he asked. The live stream was full of comments, people spamming, "Get out." And "Did you see that?" A few claimed they saw a shadow move across the screen. The man laughed nervously but kept filming. He said he heard a whisper. He leaned closer to the camera to joke about it. Then, without warning, the live stream cut to static. The feed ended. The man was never seen again. Police found his phone in the middle of the room, recording nothing but silence. Now the motel is boarded up. The town wants to demolish it. But every time they send a crew, something goes wrong. Equipment breaks down, workers refuse to enter, accidents happen. So the building still stands empty but not forgotten. Room 6 remains locked, though some say the door has been seen slightly open, swaying in the wind, as if inviting someone inside. And maybe the scariest part of all is this. If you stand outside that room long enough, some people say you'll hear your name whispered from the other side of the door. Not just any name, your name, like whatever is in there already knows you. And once you hear it, you won't be able to forget it. You'll keep thinking about it, wondering what's behind that door, until maybe one day you'll go back and open it. There's a stretch of road in the Midwest that locals call the last stretch. From a distance, it looks like nothing more than an old highway, a cracked line of asphalt running, straight between endless fields and patches of dark forest. No streetlights, no gas stations, just miles of silence. People who don't know the stories will drive down it without thinking twice. But the ones who grew up nearby avoid it like the plague. Because for decades, drivers who take that road at night have vanished without a trace. It started back in the late 70s, when a family of 3 disappeared while traveling home after visiting relatives. Their car was found a week later at the side of the highway, doors wide open, headlights still on, and the engine dead. Inside were their belongings, their bags, their wallets. Everything was there. Everything except them. Police searched the surrounding woods for days but found no bodies. No footprints, nothing. It was as if the family had stepped out of their car and dissolved into thin air. Not long after that, more reports came in. A truck driver who vanished mid-route. His 18-wheeler discovered idling in the middle of the road. Driver's side door open, coffee cup still warm. A college student whose car was found crashed into a ditch. The windshield shattered from the inside, as if something had pulled her out. In one of the eeriest cases, a minivan was discovered with 2 children crying in the back seat, but both parents gone. The kids were too young to explain what had happened. They only told police that their mom and dad went outside to talk to someone and never came back. As the disappearances piled up, the highway developed a reputation. Locals whispered about it in diners and bars, warning outsiders not to take the road after dark. The police set up checkpoints, installed cameras, even tried closing off the stretch at night. But nothing helped. The vanishings always happened in the same way. At night, when the moon was high, always in the same 10-mile stretch of road. And there was never any sign of a struggle, never a clue to what had taken the drivers away. Some of the surviving witnesses, the few who made it out, tell stories that are hard to believe. One man claimed he was driving late at night when he saw a woman in a white dress standing in the middle of the road. He slammed the brakes, but when he looked up, the woman was gone. Shaken, he pulled over to catch his breath, only to hear soft knocking on his window. He turned and saw her sitting in the passenger seat, pale and smiling. He blacked out and woke up hours later in his truck, parked at a rest stop miles away from the highway. Another survivor, a teenage girl, said she and her friends were driving down the stretch When their car started filling with the smell of rotting flesh, the radio turned to static, and when they looked in the rearview mirror, there was someone sitting in the back seat. They swerved off the road in panic. When they regained their senses, they were alone, but one of their friends was missing and never found. There are theories, of course. Some say the road was built over an old burial site, a place where dozens of bodies were dumped during Prohibition. Others believe there's something supernatural, a curse, maybe even a portal that pulls people out of existence. Skeptics argue it's just coincidence, that accidents and abductions happen everywhere. But skeptics can't explain why the cars are always left behind. With no sign of forced entry, why valuables are untouched, or why every missing person is swallowed up in the exact same stretch of asphalt. One of the most chilling cases happened in 2003. A man named Henry Collins was driving home, late after work. He called his wife on his cell phone and told her he'd be back in an hour. But in the middle of the call, she heard him say, "There's someone on the road." She asked what he meant, but he didn't answer. She heard him breathe heavily, then whisper, "They're in the car." After that, the line went dead. His car was found the next morning, still running, parked neatly on the shoulder. Henry was gone. The police searched, dogs tracked, helicopters flew, but there was nothing. His wife still swears she sometimes gets calls from his number, static on the other end, and a faint voice saying her name. Over time, urban legends have grown around the highway. People talk about ghostly hitchhikers, figures that appear in the middle of the road, only to vanish when you get close. Some say if you drive with your headlights off, you'll see a line of shadowy people walking along the shoulder. But if you honk or stop, they'll surround your car and you'll never be seen again. Others believe the road itself is alive, that once you set foot on it, something beneath the asphalt watches you, waiting for the right moment to take you. There are dashcam videos circulating online, grainy footage showing strange flickers of light, shadowy shapes darting across the road, or sudden cuts, where the recording just ends as if the car itself disappeared. Most people think they're hoaxes, but one clip, taken in 2016 by a delivery driver, shows something harder to dismiss. It starts normal, the headlights illuminating the cracked highway. Then a figure appears standing in the middle of the lane. The driver swerves, curses, but the figure is suddenly in front of the windshield, pale face pressed against the glass. The video ends with a scream and static. The driver's truck was found abandoned the next day. He was never found. Even today, people still vanish on that road. The official count is over 60 missing persons, though locals believe the real number is higher. Police no longer investigate unless there's a body, and most families of the missing are left with no answers. The highway remains open, though most avoid it after dark. Truckers will reroute their entire trip just to stay away. Rideshare apps won't send drivers through it. Navigation systems sometimes glitch when routing cars there, as if even technology knows not to go near it. If you ever find yourself driving in that part of the Midwest, locals will give you the same warning: don't take the last stretch. If you have no choice, keep your eyes forward. Don't stop for anyone, no matter what you see. Don't look in your mirrors, no matter what you hear. And above all, if you feel like someone is sitting in the back seat, don't turn around. Just keep driving and hope you make it through. Because once you notice them, once you look, you might not be able to leave. And maybe the scariest thought of all is this: the people who vanished weren't doing anything wrong. They were just driving home, just passing through, just trying to get somewhere safe. The same thing you or I might do any night, which means the next person the highway decides to take could be anyone, even you. Rideshare apps won't send drivers through it. Navigation systems sometimes glitch when routing cars there, as if even technology knows not to go near it. If you ever find yourself driving in that part of the Midwest, locals will give you the same warning: don't take the last stretch. If you have no choice, keep your eyes forward. Don't stop for anyone, no matter what you see. Don't look in your mirrors, no matter what you hear. And above all, if you feel like someone is sitting in the back seat, don't turn around. Just keep driving and hope you make it through. Because once you notice them, once you look, you might not be able to leave. And maybe the scariest thought of all is this: the people who vanished weren't doing anything wrong. They were just driving home, just passing through, just trying to get somewhere safe. The same thing you or I might do any night, which means the next person the highway decides to take could be anyone, even you. For years afterward, hikers reported strange sights in the woods, surrounding the orphanage, shadows darting between the trees, the sound of children giggling in the distance, sometimes even the faint melody of a lullaby carried on the wind. Teenagers dared each other to spend the night inside the ruins, and many returned pale and shaken, unwilling to speak of what they'd seen. A local priest who once tried to bless the grounds claimed he heard dozens of tiny voices whispering his name. He left town the very next day and never returned. Decades passed, and the orphanage rotted away. The roof caved in, the bell tower leaned dangerously to one side, and ivy swallowed its walls whole. Still, no one touched it. Developers refused to buy the land, and even vandals avoided staying too long. It was as if the place itself resisted being disturbed. Then, in 1997, construction workers clearing land nearby stumbled upon a discovery that reignited every nightmare Ashfield had tried to bury. Just beyond the tree line, shallow graves were found. Small bones, dozens of them. Some fractured, some incomplete, some buried with fragments of clothing still clinging to them. Though the authorities arrived quickly, the remains could never be properly identified, too much time having passed. But everyone in Ashfield knew who they belonged to: the missing children. The official report was careful, vague. It mentioned human remains of indeterminate age, but never dared to confirm the connection to the orphanage. Yet the locals didn't need confirmation. For them, the truth had always been there, just hidden in plain sight. Margaret Whitlock had died years earlier, but many believed she had been part of something much darker than anyone had realized. Some whispered she had made a pact, offering the children as sacrifices for wealth or longevity. Others believed the orphanage itself was cursed, that the building fed on the young and innocent to preserve its own presence. There were even those who swore they had seen Whitlock walking the grounds long after her death, her shadow gliding across broken glass in the moonlight. To this day, Ashfield Orphanage stands as a shell of its former self. Locals refuse to go near it, and even thrill seekers have stopped testing their luck. Some say if you listen closely on a cold night, you'll hear children laughing, followed by sudden blood-curdling screams. Others swear they've seen small handprints pressed against the windows from the inside, even though every entrance is sealed. There are reports of travelers breaking down on the old road near the orphanage, only to hear the sound of little feet running circles around their cars. A few have vanished altogether, their vehicles found abandoned with doors wide open, as if they had been pulled into the woods. The legend has only grown, spreading beyond Ashfield into online forums, paranormal podcasts and viral videos. Some call it one of the darkest unsolved mysteries in England. Others claim it's proof that evil doesn't fade with time. It lingers, waiting for the curious and the careless. And though the truth will never be officially acknowledged, one thing remains certain: the children of Ashfield never left. Their laughter, their cries, and their presence are still woven into the fabric of that village, haunting anyone who dares to look too closely. If you ever find yourself in Ashfield and someone warns you not to wander the woods at night, listen. Because once you hear the voices calling your name, it's already too late.